Perfect.
So I got Ryan Roxie here on the phone with me. What you been up to these days, Ryan, in the music industry?
Well, you're talking to me from Stockholm, Sweden. So I have been living in Stockholm for the past 4 years, and my band, Roxy 77, we just put out a brand new album this past July 7th, which is 7/7/2009. So it just came out basically, and we're promoting it pretty heavily throughout the remainder of the year and into the next year.
Would you say today's way of distributing music's a lot smoother than the past eras, certainly in the Alice Cooper days?
Well, I think that the opportunities for people to do it themselves has gotten a lot better. Nowadays a band can take their own music and promote it themselves with just about as much power as, bigger independent labels or even some small major labels can do now, because, the power of the internet and the power of distribution, it really lies within the fans now. The fans have a much more keener sense of how to sniff out the bands that they like, and it's much easier to find the bands that you like. And I guess in today's world, for me, I'm pretty lucky that I've been one of those guys that's been in the trenches of rock for a long time. So I have quite a history. You might not have heard the name Ryan Roxie before, but you definitely heard the names that are associated with it. So the fact that I've been able to play with so many different artists and so many people and do my own solo albums all in between has helped me, able to build up this base that I have today.
Today also you're a radio disc jockey still, promoting music and stuff yourself?
Yeah, I do. I started out a couple of years ago on I think it was one of the Alice Cooper tours. I started doing these podcasts, and I was the best way, I guess, to get into radio is to be really freaked out by the sound of your own voice, which I always have been. Whether it's singing or talking, I always was a little bit afraid of the sound of my own voice. But then I just dove in and started doing these podcasts, and people started commenting like, hey, you have a really good sounding voice on these podcasts or on the radio when I hear you do interviews. You should do it more. So it gave me the confidence to sort of do it more. And now, here in Sweden, there's a pretty big classic rock sort of following, plus it's a good rock and roll scene, music-wise, here in Scandinavia. So I've been able to do a lot of talking. And the fact that everybody speaks, everyone has a pretty good command of the English language here in Scandinavia, even though they all speak, 4 different languages in the 4 different countries of Scandinavia.
Would you say today radio is getting still big worldwide, and you're doing online radio also?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that people, they want to hear the history behind certain songs. My radio show that I was doing, I'd always interject a little bit of personal history or just a little bit of history about, my knowledge of what songs are, because I think it's really interesting when you listen to a song and you like the song, but then afterwards you hear a little story about that song that where the history came from, whether it's personal history of the DJ or whether it's a bit of historical history of the band. I think it's important because we all like to listen to stuff, but now I think because of this internet culture, we like to find out a little bit more about how that song came to be.
2 sides to every story. How long did it take you to make the album? You produced it yourself?
Well, no, we had a producer named Johan Harrison, a really young, up-and-coming producer, and we co-produced it with him. We had such a good time recording this album, and I think it shows through, when you listen to the album. I originally, wanted to make an album that had the energy of us live. But then I realized that, this band, Roxy 77, that I put together, in some ways it's 2 different bands. And the songs I wanted to translate both acoustically and electrically. When someone comes to see us and we're playing electric, I want them to be blown away a completely different way than when they come to see us, when we play an acoustic show. And I want to have the freedom to play both types of shows. So I named the album Two Sides to Every Story because it's basically a 12-song album, but two versions of each song, one an acoustic version and one an electric version, and both versions have the same lyrics, but the instruments are different. Sometimes the arrangements are different. So it's definitely something to go on to Roxie77.com and just check out. And I have all the songs up on the web, so you can listen to all of them.
That's a good thing to do when you can show your audience freebies, kind of, like to check out the music too.
Well, there's a couple things that the reason why I've done this independently is because I've been able to experiment with a couple of my own sort of, I don't know, I didn't invent the theories, but I think I might be the first person to sort of really take them seriously on an album release. The Two Sides to Every Story, a whole album being, electric and acoustic arrangements. That's one, sort of way of doing it. Another concept that I sort of came up with is these things called the Conscious Free Download. Mm-hmm. And every week I have this thing called the Song of the Week. So if you go on to Roxie77.com, there's going to be at least one song every single week that's going to be downloadable for free. All right? And so basically, if you hang around the website every single week, you can eventually get the whole entire album completely free. And if you want to buy it, you can buy it as well. And here's the other concept that comes in, splitting the profits. If you buy the album, whatever you sort of put in, whether you pay $1 for a song or you pay $7.77 for the entire album, the thing is, half of that money goes to charity, and that's what I call splitting the profits. And we're working with 3 charities that I'm really happy to be working with.
Quite an accomplishment to be selling stuff like that. That's great.
Well, my idea is that, look, hey, maybe the album doesn't sell 1 million records. Maybe it does. But if the concept of splitting the profits carries over to like another band and somebody else is inspired on it, and so on and so forth, if it goes all the way up to the level of let's say someone that's selling a gazillion records, and can you imagine if the Foo Fighters said, this next single, no matter what, down the line we're going to split the profits from record one, half and half is going to go to charity and half is going to go to us, it'd be great. So I'm just hopefully opening the door for other bands to possibly do the same, because in today's world, I think people don't mind paying for music if they know that the artist is going to get some money, and then the money is going to go to a good cause as well.
How's your relationship with Alice Cooper these days and Eric Singer?
Well, to be honest with you, we are playing 2 shows next week with Alice Cooper, so I'd say the relationship is pretty damn good. We're going to be the opening band for Alice Cooper in Gothenburg and Västerås, which are both towns in the country of Sweden.
Any chance you'll be on stage again with Alice Cooper?
Well, you never can tell. I mean, like I said, I've always maintained a great relationship with Alice. I've always called him sort of the guy that I look up to, my big brother, in a sense. I'm an only child, but, if I was to choose a big brother, it would probably be Alice Cooper, because he's taught me a lot about music, a lot about the music business. So, my whole feeling is that, let's take it as it comes, and I'm really enjoying, playing with Roxie 77. I'm enjoying the music that I'm making these days, but I've also, always respect the music that I've made in the past with Alice Cooper. I mean, we did make a lot of records together, and the last 2 records we actually wrote on together, which was Dirty Diamond and Eyes of Alice Cooper, which I'm, really proud of as well.
Which album would you say is the biggest for Alice Cooper in your era? Brutal Planet?
Well, I think Brutal Planet, they definitely had a certain direction change that Alice wanted to go to, and it was really, a much heavier album. If you were to ask me what I felt my favorite album was, and what I felt was the band coming together, and showing its strengths, and at the peak of its performance, I'd say that was the Eyes of Alice Cooper, because Eric Singer was playing such good drums on it. Eric Dover and myself and Alice wrote a majority of the album, and Chuck was playing really great, and the whole band was, really hitting on all cylinders. So I thought, and the creative flow came, and we recorded the album, in a good period of time where everybody's energy was up. So to me, that's my, sort of quintessential Alice Cooper album that I was, writing on and a part of.
When you recorded with Alice Cooper, did you have much say into what amplification you'd be using?
I had all say. I mean, we were able to, Mud Rock produced the eyes of Alice Cooper, and he did a really great job with letting us choose our sounds, letting us, working with us on our tones, and it was a very, collaborative effort on that album. Just much in the sense that on this last Roxie 77 record with the producer Johan, he basically became, sort of the fifth member of Roxie 77 in the production chair, because he came up with so many cool ideas. If you listen to, either the acoustic versions or you listen to a lot of the sounds on the electric versions of Two Sides to Every Story, you'll hear what I'm talking about, because you'll hear different types of instruments that you don't normally hear in a rock and roll record. We put some strings on there. We have a horn section on a few of the songs, and I'm not saying that, oh, wow, those are great, totally new concepts or ideas, but I don't think they've been on rock and roll records, lately, and not in the same context that we've used them,
Yeah, well said there, because it's not been used too often, certainly in this era.
But I was happy because, like I said, I wanted to make the album that I wanted this album to catch the energy of Roxie 77 live. But being in the studio, I wanted to be able to have that freedom to use different instrumentations. Like a lot of, if you hear like a horn line, you'll still hear that horn line being played by a guitar when we play live. If you don't hear a horn section, But I wanted different instruments to play guitar lines, and I was able to do that with our good friend Johan producing.
What's up with Fifth Sonic Brigade? Any more albums coming out?
No. I haven't been collaborating with them in a long time. I'm concentrating most of my efforts with Roxie 77, and then there's one other band that I'm a guitar player in, and a very, I'm a full member of, and it's more of a, it's weird to say, but it's lack of a better term. It's a Swedish supergroup. Everybody from the band comes from a well-established band here in Sweden. So hopefully you'll be hearing about that more in early 2010. So we're going to have to get together again and maybe do another interview, maybe January, February, something like that. So when we unleash that single, that comes out in early next year.
What's the name of the group?
The name of that band is called Casablanca. So I think you'll be hearing a lot more about that early in 2010. But
Wow.
for all of those that have Google, I'm sure you've already gotten on the net. but I've kept it real lowbrow just right now because I'm been really excited about all the stuff that's been going on with Roxie 77. So I mean, the best way to find out any sort of information about myself is just use that weird word Google. And just Google my name or just Google Roxie 77, and pretty much everything comes clear.
One last question, Ryan. Are you going to be doing any tours soon? Like coming out of the Sweden area?
I would love to be getting outside of Scandinavia. I've been touring Scandinavia for the last couple of years. I've been working with Gibson guitars as well. That's what I was doing, and doing guitar clinics all around Scandinavia. But and it took me to some other places as well, like Russia and Poland as well. But as far as playing music with the band, I'm really looking forward to 2010 being a nice breakout year for both bands, that I'm involved in right now. So, like I said, all the stars have to align. And before we started with this interview, I told you that I'm sitting home tonight, coincidentally enough, watching that movie Anvil with tears streaming down my face because it's so heartbreaking but so inspiring at the same time, and you realize just what you couldn't say it better than Bon Scott said it when he said it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, and it is a long way to the top. But I'm really proud of the fact that there's a bunch of us carrying the torch to keep it going.
Yeah, and Anvil really deserve to have their time finally.
It's great, man. I mean, like I said, it was one of those bands that one of those movies. The band, I'm recording at a studio called Polar Studios here in Sweden, and it's kind of famous for ABBA recording there. Mm-hmm. Led Zeppelin recorded all the In Through the Outdoor tracks there. It's kind of got it's a cool name, Studio Polar here in Sweden, and I'm doing the Casablanca record, and it was my birthday last week, and the guys in the band, they got me a copy of this DVD, and of course they all borrowed it for the first weekend that they got it. So tonight's the first night I've been able to watch it, and it's been great.
It's awesome. You got to find the new, the classic Metal Anvil's re-released also. I don't know if you have a copy of that.
Well, there you go. See, it's just another thing. In a sense, Roxie 77 is helping out Anvil. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on and check it out, obviously, more after this, and I'll make a deal. If Anvil goes and checks out Two Sides to Every Story on Roxie 77's website, I'll for sure join their Facebook or their MySpace group as well. How about that? Is that a deal, Anvil? Tell them that, honestly, I sat home tonight, I laughed, I cried, and, I feel like I feel like I've just gotten done seeing a chick flick because it was very emotional.
Yeah. Awesome, Ryan Roxie. Excellent guitarist.
Thanks for having me out there. And I know that I'm feeling it right now with you guys because I'm living in Stockholm. Are you up in Nova Scotia? You guys got has the cold front hit you guys yet?
Yes, it's starting to do the -2 right now.
Nice. I'm with you. I might be 6, 7, 8 hours away from you guys, but I am feeling the cold just as well. So we're all freezing together, but we're just a little bit closer to the North Pole.
So you're freezing more.
A little bit. I mean, it hasn't snowed. It's just been a bit freezing rain today. That's been a nice day.
That's a very nice day. Good old freezing rain. I ain't looking forward to
it.
Stay
inside. Well, yeah. It's good to stay inside and watch the Anvil movie and work on my Roxie 77 promotion, and I've actually been promoting the Roxie 77 Alice Cooper shows pretty much all day, and like for all the listeners there, they probably all have MySpace or Facebook. Roxie 77 is pretty well pronounced on those mediums as well.
Right on. Well, it's been a pleasure, Ryan. You have a good one.
Thanks a lot, and enjoy the album. I hope you play a couple tracks off of it and enjoy it. And thanks. It's been great talking to you.